Hey guys, welcome back to Ravenclaw Reads. I'm Courtney, and today you're joining me for my mid-year book tag. I've seen this tag everywhere, and I wanted to join in. I don't think I did it last year, but this year I wanted to go ahead and answer the questions. This is everywhere, but I've seen it on several channels. However, I copied and pasted the questions from Alexandra Roslin, so I will link her channel, and I will put the questions down below. If you are a new booktuber or just starting out or a vet, these questions are great. I had to really think about them. I think I had these questions saved for 2 weeks, deciding how I wanted to answer them because they're a great thought process for middle of the year. I am filming this on June, the 26th. So we are just about halfway through the year. I will add my stats, I guess, on the bottom, or maybe I'll insert them here. But so far I've read 80 books. My goal on Goodreads is 100 books. I did intentionally slow down this year, even though it doesn't feel like it, because I wanted to read books that were meaningful, and I didn't want to rush through books, and somehow I've still gotten to 80 books. I did see somebody do this tag and was like, I only read this many, and some booktubers read a lot, but I work full-time, and I feel like that was kind of a dig. I also work full-time. I have kids, I have an animal, I have a husband, I have all kinds of things going on, and so I don't think in this community we should compare or put somebody down if they read a lot of books. It doesn't mean they're not busy. It just means that priorities are different, days are different, people are different, book sizes are different, and that's okay because we are a welcoming space and community. So let's start. There are 13 questions, and so I have most of them done. 2 of them I have a TBD on my notes here, and so I'm going to answer those kind of on the spot. So the first question is, what is the best book you've read so far in 2024? So the best book I read was a book called We Are Not Like Them by Jo Piazza. I think I've talked about this book so much on this channel, but I read this book, I don't even want to say the months, I don't remember, but I read this book after hearing from the author who was on my favorite podcast, which is the Stuck in Stony Brook. And Jo Piazza has different books, but this book specifically follows 2 best friends, a black friend and a white friend. They've been friends since childhood. As they're adults, the white woman's husband is a police officer and is involved in a shooting of an unarmed teen black boy. And the fallout of that is watching the relationship and the dynamics of how race plays a role in the relationship, and sort of the backstory behind how many things they hadn't said to each other about race, why it's important. And it was just a great social commentary and very apropos for the times that we live in. My only complaint with that book, the only complaint, was that it did not end in a way that was realistic. It was kind of a tied up in a pretty bow type ending, and I personally didn't think that was a good idea because that's not real life. And I get fiction books are fiction, and that's the writer's personal choice, but in my opinion, I would have loved a more realistic outcome. The next question is best sequel you've read so far in 2024. This one was kind of hard because I don't think I've read too many sequels. So I did pick Iron Flame. This is the sequel to The Fourth Wing. And I picked up Iron Flame pretty quickly when it came out because I remember when I wanted to read The Fourth Wing, it was sold out everywhere. So I ended up getting it on my device. And then Iron Flame was going to come out November or December or something like that. And I picked it up on my device, and then I pre-ordered it as well, but I wasn't in the mood to read it, and so I didn't read it until earlier this year, and I really enjoyed it. I like the story inside Iron Flame. It's hard to go bit by bit on what's it about because you would have had to have read the first one. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't gotten there, but the series in itself just moves quickly, and it kind of puts me in the same category as Powerless, where it's the author's kind of young. Well, is she? I don't know. The author style writing is kind of young. It zips through. There's that romance element. Super intriguing. This book was not as good to me as The Fourth Wing, and maybe it was just the mystique had gone, but it was still a very great book. And since I didn't read a lot of sequels so far, that was the best one I could pick. Okay, the next question is my first TBD. I had to do some research. This is a new release you haven't read yet, but want to. I feel like this year has been a series of waiting for new releases. There were so many of my autobi authors that had content out, from Emily Henry to Catherine Sinter to Amy Lee. I mean, so many that came out already. And so it seems like every couple of months I'm like in a holding pattern waiting for the next great drop. But when I think about some of the most anticipated, some of them are already passed, like Funny Story, Not in Love, Allie Hazelwood's book, Funny Stories, Emily Henry's book. But I guess as I was sort of perusing my one to read on Goodreads, Jennifer Lynn Barnes has The Grandest Game coming out. And she has another book coming out within that same sort of world. I'm trying to look at it on Goodreads, but you know, Goodreads is touch and go. Okay, so we have The Grandest Game that comes out. When is that coming out? Let's take a look here. Okay, The Grandest Game is coming out July 30th. And this one says, 7 tickets, an island of dreams, the chance of a lifetime. Welcome to The Grandest Game, an annual competition run by billionaire Avery Grahams. So again, we're following the same folks, and the 4 infamous Hawthorne brothers whose family fortune she inherited. Designed to give anyone a shot at fame and fortune, this year's game requires 1 of 7 golden tickets to enter. With millions on the line, those 7 players will do whatever it takes to win. Some of the players are in it for the money, some for power, some for reasons all their own. Every single one of them has secrets. Amidst it all is Grayson Hawthorne, tasked with a vital role in this year's game. But as tensions rise and the mind-bending challenges push the players to their limits, physically, mentally, and emotionally, it soon becomes clear that not everyone is playing by the rules. So I loved the Inheritance games. I did not love the Naturals, but I am determined to get through that series. But this Grandest Game puts me in the same world with the Hawthorns and Avery, and I am excited to check that out. So I guess if I had to pick an anticipated release, that would be it. Okay, next question is that's the release that hasn't come out yet that I'm waiting to. The most anticipated release for the second half of the year is the next question number 4. And I think that has to be Reckless, you guys. I am obsessed with this world. I ran through the book Powerless. I loved it. I was there the moment Powerful came out to read that novella and read that really quickly. And now I'm ready for Reckless. Again, another fantasy, so I don't want to spoil things for people. But that world is really engaging. The writing style is fast-paced, and I'm so excited to have that come out. Next up, we have the biggest disappointment of the year, and unfortunately, that was The Catch by Amy Lee. Amy Lee has written 2 other books in this series. It's like an influencer series. I believe the first book, Set on You, was a fitness influencer. It was like enemies to lovers. And then we had X's and O's, and it was a book influencer and the firefighter boyfriend. And then we have The Catch. In The Catch, we have this sort of bougie girl who's an influencer, and she's invited to this sort of woodsy cabin area to like check out the hotel and, you know, make content there. And it's like a whole group of people who are going to do it. It seems like those influencer trips happen all the time. And so she gets there, but she's a week too early. And so she has to go stay at like a Airbnb or like a bed and breakfast. And the owner is a grumpy, and they start connecting and fishing, and obviously they get together. It's a romance. But it just didn't hit for me. And I really like Amy Lee, so that's not going to deter me from buying future books, but in comparison to the other 2 books in that series, it just didn't hit. So unfortunately, that was my biggest disappointment. Next up is the biggest surprise. I didn't know surprise what, like ending, surprise like, whatever. So I interpreted it as both the biggest surprise of me picking this book to read, and then the biggest surprise within the story, and that is By Baby. I saw this book on Book of the Month Club. It was an option, but I did not choose it. And then I think I heard somebody talk about it, or maybe I just saw it on Kindle Unlimited and decided I was going to download it because I didn't have to pay $10.99 for it, so why not just read it for free? And it was phenomenal. If you've checked out some of my other weekly wrap-ups or weekly vlogs, you would know that I've talked about this book. And basically, we follow 2 lifelong friends who have been through many ups and downs, are keeping so many secrets from each other. As they're getting older, they're starting to drift apart. One of the friends is pregnant, and the other friend feels like she's left out. She's not being invited to things, and she feels like her friends starting to look down on her, and connect with people who also look down on her. And she just tries to get back into her life in sort of like a single white female sort of way. Lots of things happen in that book. Lots of secrets are uncovered. And it's just so good. I did not expect to like a book like this. It's so off-brand for me, but as I've said many times this year, I'm trying to expand my palette of reading. I can't read romance back to back to back. It's driving me bananas, but this was a thriller slash literary fiction that was really exciting to me, and that was a huge surprise. Okay, next up, the question is a new favorite author or debut or new to me. I actually picked two. So as I mentioned, Jo Piazza, her book, like I said, was phenomenal. And then another book that I read was Ace of Spades by, I'm going to say her first name, Farida Abike Limidi. I am butchering the mess out of that and so disrespectful to the name. So I have the pictures up here so you can see the cover. Ace of Spades was recommended to me by my coworker. We are avid readers and we're always sharing like what's the next book we want to read. She had offered this book and it was amazing. It's a nice thriller, if you could put nice and thriller together, about a private boarding school that is actively working to use systemic practices to get Black students out of the school. And it kind of reminded me as a teen written version of the movie Get Out. And I really, really liked it. I'm giving that 5 stars. And so I have her other book, Where Sleeping Girls Lie, but it's very similar to Ace of Spades, so I haven't like dug deeply into it, but phenomenal writing, phenomenal author. All right, next up is my newest fictional crush. And this book and this crush goes to Mr. Justin from Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I ended up giving this book 4 stars because the ending for me just started rolling up too many side quests that weren't really necessary. But Justin was the epitome of like book boyfriend crush. We have Justin and Emma who are both cursed with dating someone, and then the very next person that person dates, they get married and get settled down, and both of them seem to have it. They meet each other on a Reddit post and decide they will date each other so that the next person they date, they can marry. And so they're not trying to like really fall in love with each other, just following the plan of the curse. Well, Justin lives in Minnesota and Emma does not, but she's a traveling nurse. She comes to Minnesota for her assignment and they have time together, and Justin like bends his back for Emma. He does what he can to make the time special. He creates special surveys for her to take. He receives feedback from the dates. He's going like the place that she's staying, you have to cross a river or a lake. He's going across the lake to it. It's above and beyond, and it's beautiful. He's also taking guardianship of his siblings. That one right there. That's a good book boyfriend. Okay, next up is my newest favorite character. As I'm looking for the answer to this, I'm noticing how many great books I've read this year. I'm so excited about it. I usually put my Goodreads in my description, so please check that out to hear more about what I've read this year. So I'm only taking a small sampling to answer these short 13 questions, but this is going to be kind of an off one. But my favorite character is from Ready or Not, and again, this is one of, I think there's lots of character pairs that I really enjoy. I don't really latch onto a character. Usually it's a pair or a scenario or a response to something. But in Ready or Not, one of the huge appeals of the story is that it's not a traditional story. In the story, Eve gets pregnant, and she it's like, I think it's a one-night stand, and she tries to find the father of the baby. He's a bartender or a bar owner. She finds him, but they don't click and they're not trying to date or force something. And that's what I really, really loved. So it's like a scenario slash the character. The male character, I can't even remember his name, but he is the father of the baby. He's willing to be there. However, he has a girlfriend, he has his own life, and he's never trying to like disrespect his current girlfriend, but he's also not disrespecting her. He's not ideal as a parent. Obviously, it's a shock for him, but I like that he was honest throughout the whole book about, like, I'm not trying to date you. I will be there for whatever needs to be done, but like, we don't need to make this a thing. And that just seems weird. I know I'm calling that out, but I just think it was refreshing to see a character who wasn't trying to force something that wasn't, because then the story wouldn't have been realistic. And I actually really liked the idea that he wasn't a part of the development of the baby or the story, but out comes the other guy, her friend, who kind of steps up and takes that role of father. Okay, so then books that made me cry is question number 10. I generally do not cry over books. Like, I purposefully don't read sad books because that's just not my jam. But I also don't find myself crying over books. I don't know. I can be invested without being like emotionally destroyed by a book. So I have yet to cry over a book. Next up is book that made you happy. And this one was kind of surprising to me, but this year I fell into this series, the Yoga Pant Nation series. And for the most part, those books made me happy because they were just literary fiction, women point of view, being a mom, trying to figure out life, trying to balance all the things. They were really quick reads, like under 300 pages. And there were like 3 books in the series. There's 4 in the series, but I read all but the first book. And it was just like, I knew what was coming next. There was another book ready for me. They were a quick hit. They were available at my library. They had the good crinkly contact paper that I love in the hardcover books. So it was just something in a period of time that made me happy. Okay, the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year. For all of the books, I'm showing you the just picture, but for this one, I have to show you up close, and it is Real Americans. This is another book that was recommended to me by that same coworker, and she picked it up from Book of the Month Club, and I did not. But when I saw it at Barnes and read the inside cover, I decided I was going to pick it up. This book is gorgeous. It is a special edition, has the lotus flowers on the side, and it's absolutely beautiful coloring. So I really loved that sort of wine color. It just looks sick on the bookshelf, and the pages are nice and sturdy, but it has still a good bend. So that is a beautiful book. Another book I'll show you, not necessarily the most beautiful, but another special edition from Barnes & Noble, was the reappearance of Rachel Price. And I liked this book because it had this sort of holographic shimmery camera, which if you read the book, you know what that's for. You have the writing here, and then the inside cover, you have all these little things that are relating to the story. And so I thought that was really cool. I like the detail on that. So not the prettiest, but also very interesting. I've also just found myself getting more into the special editions from Barnes & Noble. They're a little bit pricier, but if you're going to read the book, you're going to display it, you might as well do it right. I am trying still to make most of my purchases digital, but if I am going to buy the book, I might as well buy a pretty copy, right? Okay, the last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? There's so many. Let me show you. Okay, we're going to run down this stack. First of all, this is not all inclusive of all the books I need to finish this year, nor does this count books that are on my Kindle, because there's a ton. What I did look at while I was grabbing some books that I want to finish this year was that Lynn Painter has her next book coming out. Nothing Like the Movies, that is an anticipated release for me too, because I love Lynn Painter. So if we back up, boop, 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 to question, what was that? 4, Lynn Painter as well. Okay, so I have few books on my bookshelf right now that I would love, love, love to finish. Okay, so first I have Jackpot Summer. This is by Elisa Friedland. I got this from Book of the Month Club this month, and it started not super exciting, and so I didn't want to get slumped, so I put it down, but I do want to read it. I still have Never by Jessa Hastings. First of all, this book, Feeling, is amazing. I also have the digital copy, I believe, but I would like to finish this because it's just been sitting. I picked this up out of desperation. Like, I could not wait to read this book. I'm still on the fence about how I feel about Harry walking away from the royal family. I have no ties to the royal family. I know that there's issues, but I was so excited to read this book, and it's just been sitting. And I remember like desperately looking for it. Like, I have to read this book, and I still haven't. I also finished Butcher and Blackbird this month? And I picked up Leather and Lark. I would like to read this because the book was good. I am in the middle of this series. This is The War of Lost Hearts. This is book 2. I still have to read this one, and there's another one after this. They are chunky, but they're good. Like, on this one, I'm on page 68, so not that far, but they are good books. Nothing wrong with them, just haven't gotten to them. I also have The Dixon Rule by Elle Kennedy, another book that I was determined to read. I did read The Graham Effect. Did I? No, I didn't read The Graham Effect, but I read Girl Abroad. But this book is a little bit more fun than The Graham Effect, so I wanted to read this. Read that one, grabbed that one by accident. Okay, I also have Murder in the Family. This year I've really gotten into mixed media books, and Murder in the Family is one of those books. Obviously it's about a murder in the family, but the book is made up of transcripts, pictures, chat conversations, interviews, all of these things that make it very interesting. It's giving October, but I do want to read that. Last year I fell in love with the Scythe series, and I picked up The Gleanings. This is like a novella. It's like stories of our scythes out in the wild and how they manage, and I like to read it, just haven't done it yet. And then finally, just for this short list, because there's so many, I do want to finish this Daisy Hates book. I think I was on page, let me see where the bookmark was. I mean, I was pretty in. I was like maybe 125 pages in. I really like it, and I don't know why I put it down, but I did, and I want to read the second Daisy Hates book. So that's also on my list at some point. So there's lots of options. I always have books to be read. I'm always looking for new books. My Kindle is overflowing. There's never a shortage. That's the best thing about this hobby. So I loved this mid-year book tag. It gave me an opportunity to reflect on what I've read so far, as well as what's to come. Comment down below what you're reading, what you have read, what you're looking forward to. I hope to see you on Sunday when I give you my weekly wrap-up. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.